The island is today mourning the death of one of our stalwarts, a kind, gentle giant who worked his way up from post office worker to postmaster. Commissioner of the Island Territory of St. Martin, Mr. Dennis Pontiflet started his career as an employee of the post office, which was located then in the courthouse building. He worked his way up to becoming postmaster, then worked at Concord or Maho Beach Hotel as we know it today as head of personnel. Then he got into politics in the late 1980s, where he elected himself. He was one of the few people that I can remember who elected himself as on his first attempt when he entered politics, even though he was not at the top of the list, but rather the bottom of the Democratic Party list back in 1987. He was a member of the Island Council, Commissioner of Tourism, and acting Lieutenant Governor. Mr. Dennis Pontiflet died peacefully at his home, but will always be remembered for the person he was and for the various distinguished capacities and positions he held back in our day. One individual that worked with him could tell us more about her experiences with him over the years. She is our Chair Lady of Parliament, the Honorable Mrs. Sarah Westcott Williams, who was also his neighbor of sorts as they lived across the road from one another. Honorable Chair Lady, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk about one of your colleagues, back in the day, before 10-10-10, way before 10-10-10. Right. What do you remember? How did you first meet?
And like with so many things, that period of time, I believe, and I think it's unfortunate, not much is said, written, or recounted about those so-called island territory days.
Right, exactly.
And if I briefly look back at how Dennis Pontiflet, Dennis as we all call him, came into the political arena, I believe it was like maybe in 1975 that he actually ran with a political party, a new political party at the time. It was sort of focused on labor, and it was called the ALM, Antillian Labor Movement. And he, at that time, he obtained very, very few votes. Very few. Less than 10, I believe it was at the time. And but that was short-lived. That political party was short-lived. And then, as you mentioned in the introduction, it was in 1987 that he ran on the Democratic Party slate, and he was number 11 at the time, and he got what we called preferential votes. That means that even though he was at that point on the list, he was able to gain the amount. It was not a full outright seat amount, but it definitely, he met a quota to be considered preferential votes. And thus, he got into the Island Council, of course. And at that time, and that is a big difference between our system now and how it used to be before, because of the Island Council, you would have a certain amount that could be commissioners at a time. So Dennis was elected to the Island Council, and it was also during those years that you had a lot going on with the Democratic Party, and especially the former leader, the late Dr. Claude Watty, and his commissioners. And so in 1990, I believe it was the big falling out with the commissioners and Dr. Watty. And 1990 was also a federal election year. And that too, to me, is an important part of the days prior to 10-10-10. Namely, that while now we have had elections like for the past couple of years, every 2 years, so now since 10-10-10, however, back then we used to have a cycle of elections because we also had elections for the central government parliament.
Right.
So we would have an election, for example, 1990, a next one in 1991, 94, 95, 98, 99. And so you had every 4 years you had elections back to back. And so anyhow, in 1990, it was a federal parliamentary election. And at that time, that was the first time that I ran in 1990 on the slate of the Democratic Party. And as I mentioned, within the Executive Council and members of the Executive Council at the time, along with the late Dennis Pantoflet, were Mrs. Valerie Gitterson Pantoflet, you had the late Cyril Ebenezer Richardson, and you had Miss Patsy Flanders. And so that was the Executive Council. That it's in that Executive Council that you had a falling out between the commissioners and the late Dr. Claude Watty. And so Dennis served there. He served in the Island Council, of course. That's where you were elected, and then you and also as commissioner.
And colleagues, Mr. Roberto Richardson and Mr. Ricardo Williams. Let me start with Ricardo. Ricardo, how did you first meet Dennis?
Well, Dennis was working for the GIS at that time. He was head over the GIS department, and he came to me and told me that he have to do a presentation to go on TV. So I see him talking to me and explaining me that the program, how you want to put a program together. And I was finding it strange that this guy never been on TV before. He never do any presentation. And he asking me to help him to talk on TV, you know. So I said, well, before I go to that, Dennis is a very good speaker.
Yes, he was.
Not only like for public thing, but speaking to like how you speak to me.
Right.
And his English is very good.
Yeah.
Very
Orator.
good. Yeah. Sometimes when he talks, he sound like a professor.
Yes.
So he there talking to me, and I just listen, but I ain't looking at him, you know. I just listening because I'm formatting in my mind how I'm going to train this guy to do presentation on TV.
Right.
You know what I mean? And he talking. And at the given moment, he stopped talking. And my head was like this, you know, thinking,
right.
You know, how we're going to work with this guy. And I don't know, I look up at him, I see him watching at me like,
what now?
Yeah,
what
I ain't saying nothing.
What are you thinking? Yeah.
You know,
Give me your feedback.
Yeah, so I said, well, one thing is good I see from you that you could do, you can speak very well. And the most important thing with television is that you got to speak clear what you know about, right? Because nobody can understand what you're saying.
Exactly.
Right? So, and you have to know what's going on in the island and the islands around you, and even step further out, right? If you want to carry a particular story about, but you have to know, you can't just say anything just like that.
Right.
So, I told Dennis, okay, what I would do is I will start with you with the training tomorrow. But one thing I'm going to tell you, we don't do nothing here live. Oh, sorry, we don't do nothing recorded. Everything is live.
Yeah.
So that means to make it more difficult.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I say you need to go through under the lights, and I'm going to sit down there and watch you reading and see how you're going to perform. Right? He say, when I got to do that? Well, we can start tomorrow. Already? Yeah. Well, you the one come to me. You could, so let's go with it, right?
Stuck with Dennis. You stuck with him, and you were there up until the end.
That's true, Valerie. You know.
So talk to us. How did you first meet Dennis?
I would have to go in right in the middle because I like where
Ricardo picked it up from.
Yeah, because I met Dennis. For a matter of fact, and I was working in the private sector for a Dutch architectural firm, and then at that time the executive council of Rene and Joe in '87, they and Dennis was at that time already an Island Council member. He had got elected in the Island Council, but Rene and Joe were the executive council from the Democratic Party government, and Rene asked me because he was a commissioner of public works, and so what is today Vromi, and he asked me to leave the Dutch firm and they come and work with the Building and Housing Inspection Department, Domain Affairs, to help them because they needed the reinforcement, and to also act along with Cyril Hazel, the late Cyril Hazel, as the acting head of the department. So that's how I came in through Commissioner Dennis Pollitt through Commissioner Renee Richardson.
Okay.
And Joe Richardson. But
Yeah.
Renee was the one who was really instrumental in getting me there. And then when I got into the whole DP circuit is when I met Dennis, and in 87, 88. But a lot of things happened, and is that I don't know if we could get all the time to take care of all that. But that is where I met him in the middle. But then what happened is that because of all of the things that because he confided in me, and I was like a younger brother to him. He became my mentor. All of the politics that I knew over the years and up to when he died, I learned from Dennis. Dennis was really, and but he also used to confide in me and share everything with me. So while we talked about when he got into the politics, he took me way back when he was a little boy in Margaret Hill.
Wow,
yeah,
okay.
growing up with his parents, and how it was then, and what really developed him into being
Made him into the man that
yeah,
he
because
was.
you see, one of the things is that he all his brothers, his older brothers, and even his sister Mulberry, they were able to go abroad
Right.
to further their studies.
Yeah.
And he stayed home with his
Parents.
parents, especially with his dad, because they were in the livestock, they had animals and so. So he used to take care of the cows and all of that, take them out in the morning, and then he used to milk the cows with his father. And I'm just going through it quickly.
Yeah.
And take the milk before you go to school in Phillipsburg, and take them to the Watties and the Flons and all of them.
And he walked it there.
Of course he walked there.
And he came from Margaret Hill to
exactly.
town. That was a long walk.
Yes, because that cul-de-sac area, what is known today as
Scott
let's
Road?
say, no, not just the Elvis Scott Road, but the cul-de-sac area today is South Reward, St. Peter's, Retreat,
Betty's
Hope
Estate.
Estate,
Yeah.
Betty's Estate, Ebenezer,
Saunders.
all of that is the cul-de-sac area.
One of my major concerns when I arrived back to St. Martin, and that still affects me until today, is the erosion of our culture. Let's get back to the root of this problem. We have lost our national identity, our culture that made us who we are. That our foreparents who worked hard in the salt pans, who built this country, we have lost it. There are hardly any positive role models in our society today. And a country that has lost its culture, its identity, and the principles that made it what it is today. That is the first problem. I remember that when I used to go to school, if you were standing somewhere hanging around with some bad boys, before you reached home, your parents knew what you were doing and who you were with. Isn't it true? Isn't it a fact? Where has that disappeared? I remember you can go to your neighbors and ask for some sugar or some salt without any issues at all. We have allowed our culture to be eroded, our national identity to be eroded, and now we sit here asking why there's so much crime under the youth. They don't know who they are. They're in a country, and if you go to any of the so-called blocks here on the island and you speak to the youth, because I do, they are going to tell you that they feel that they are a stranger in their own country. Let's start at the root of the problem. I remember that when I was growing up, I remembered listening to many TV programs and many radio presentations where they said, and I remembered the slogan, "Keep St. Martin clean." Why? Because we have a lot of tourists coming in, because we have a lot of visitors to the island. But we never, in those slogans and on TV and radio, said to ourselves, let's keep St. Martin clean for ourselves. We have forgotten ourselves, and it's a shame. And it's the same way that we are eroding all of our identity, which is the natural hills of this island. For what? We are eroding who we are, and as a local-born St. Martiner, let's look at ourselves. We are strangers in our own country. So how do we expect the youths to feel? I am a St. Martiner that came back, and I have never felt a stranger in my own country like how I feel now. So you can imagine how the youths feel. Let's get back, as one of the panelists say, to who we are. Let's start by getting back and gaining back our identity that we've always had on this island. There's a lack of positive role models on the island. There's a lack of institutions, social institutions that can support and motivate our youth. And if we have to go to all the other root causes of why all of this crime is happening, then we're opening up a can of worms. We have always depended and thought that whatever is on the outside of this island is better than what we have. It's a problem. Again, I'm a local-born St. Martin, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Let's look into ourselves. This problem that we have with crime is a reflection of how far we have brought it. A country who has lost their culture and their identity and their principles is a country that's leading itself to destruction, and that's what we see right now. When youngsters can go into a restaurant establishment without any mask and rob tourists that comes to this island, folks, we have a huge problem. When I can go on the block and speak to a youngster and he tells me, "Mr. Francisco, I make more money than what you make in a whole day. And I can just make that in 30 minutes, 45 minutes. We have a problem. We have always taught our own people to look at everything that's coming from outside in. And we have forgotten to build our own people.
It is such an honor and a pleasure to be sitting here to welcome the Soul Beach Music Festival back home to St. Martin. It is such an honor for myself and G Money, who has graced the stage many times in Aruba for the Soul Beach Festival, when I literally came in as unknown to this audience before, and I literally had to prove myself not only to the Soul Beach staff, but to this Soul Beach African-American audience. And throughout all the years that I've been working with them, every year I learned something new. Every time I learned something different, how to adjust, how to read this type of crowd. And I'm very happy to be on board all of these years to be a part of it. And I've learned so much over the years, and I've utilized it in other shows in other countries as well. But it's been nothing but a outstanding lineup to be part of such outstanding talent, not only this year, but throughout the years of the people I've been able to work with, to share stages with. And anybody that knows me knows I am such a big influence of Jazzy Jeff and Envy and all Frank Ski and all of these people. So to be able to work alongside them, to learn from them, to gravitate with them, and to be able to welcome them now to my home. So it is nothing but an honor and a pleasure to be a part of this, and just to be anything else of words that I encourage everybody to come out with an open mind from St. Martin, especially that they can come and enjoy all different types of music and to just have a great time under this umbrella of the Soul Beach Music Festival, and nothing but honor to be a part of it. For that, I thank you so much.
Thank you. So quickly, the scheduled events is everything from Wednesday to Monday. It's a total of 12 events over 5 days. So we're going to be moving all around the island. Our people are going to be hosting all types of events. One thing I do want to give a shout out to, since it's not on the flyer, is Thursday night is the all-white party. You have to, it's a great event. It's one of our biggest and most well-attended events. And that's going to be at Bamboo Beach this year. You got Sip, Dip, and Drip on Sunday. That's the young people maybe call it that. Sip, Dip, and Drip is a combination of drinking, the beach, and pretty much a shop till you drop all day. That we're going to do Phillipsburg, the boardwalk.
I can't wait. Boardwalk is going to come alive.
And it's something that the minister really has, made an effort to get people into that area, shopping all day. We've got 4 or 5 partners that are going to do entertainment throughout the boardwalk.
Yeah.
We have some partners
Holland House.
from Holland House to
Sinos, okay. That's
Serious Hope.
from where? From making where? From Holland House to Walter Plant. To Walter
Plant.
Oh, to Walter Plants.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Good.
And in between, people will have fun. There will be shopping. There'll be special discounts for everyone. We're going to release an app, and that'll have more information on the people that are participating, and also any special discounts will be discussed on there.
time for a new brand that is as bold, vibrant, and colorful as the island of St. Martin, with colors drawn from our diversity, cultural heritage, and nature. Our breathtaking beaches, waters, and sun, the majestic brown pelican, our national symbol, the radiant yellow sage, our national flower, the historic border monument signifying the Dutch and French sides, our exciting cruise, yachting, and boating ports, renowned Maho Beach and St. Martin Airport, the hub to the Caribbean. All these parts come together to create the shape of the island of St. Martin. More than a logo. It's a new brand that engages, excites, and will inspire travelers to book. It's time to tell the St. Martin story, to reintroduce travelers to St. Martin, to honor our past, to embrace our present, and shape our future. Our culture and diversity, Dutch and French sides, unrivaled cuisine, twice the nightlife, entertainment, and shopping, cruises, boating, and yachting, twice the adventure, exploration, and relaxation, splendid and scenic accommodations, Pinel, Tentamar, and island hopping in the Caribbean. Whatever your taste, St. Martin has more. Experience twice the Caribbean. St. Martin.
Greetings, Ricardo, and thank you for this opportunity. My name is Rihna Bakari Arendel, member of the Table Tennis St. Martin Table Tennis Federation. And we are right now here, as you said, on a Sunday, where we organize a table tennis fun day for persons, for families to come out and learn the game as well as to enjoy the game of table tennis. Because you know, table tennis was one of the most favorite pastimes that persons would participate in. And we just want to do our utmost to promote the sport as much as we can. So we just started last week Sunday, and of course because of the interest and the demand, we decided to organize it again this particular Sunday. Ultimately, the hope is to have regular sessions so that persons can learn and further develop their skills, because of course we want to be able to, in the end, form a team to compete locally as well as internationally, to showcase our local talent of table tennis on St. Martin. You know, once you can hold a racket, they are always welcome. Of course, not toddlers and babies, of course, but once they're able to hold a racket, we can always introduce them to basic drills, whether it is footwork, whether it's mechanics, whether it's just being able to, you know, handle a ball. There's something for everyone. In my biased opinion, I've been playing since about 5-6 years old. You know, so I think it just comes down to the commitment, to the interest of the player, as well as the support, you know. Usually, once persons have a great experience, they can see their progress, they have the proper support, that also plays a role in them continuing with the sport. So that's what we aim to do. Well, again, we just invite everyone to, you know, make time, look out for the next invitation, and all are welcome. We just ask for a small contribution of $5 US or 9 guilders just to assist us to cover the cost of the venue. And from there, you will be under the guidance of our renowned and beloved coach Rajuki. Even though he's on retirement, but you can hear him in the background, he's still teaching and always willing to share his skills. And it's just about building community also, learning new skills in the comfort of everyone that enjoys the game. Good.
Snap your right hand a little bit. Okay. Easy. Full half. Bend a little bit. Hit the bottom of the chest.
All you're going to do,
So this side is the red side, this side is the black side, that side is the red side, that's the forehand, this side is the black. Yeah. Now again, you now over here. You ready to bend? Want to be done already?